Welcome to the Better Together Buyers Bootcamp. I'm super excited to have you here, and I wanted to shoot this first video in this course to give you an overview. That way you're much more prepared of understanding who this is for, what we aim to accomplish with this course, as well as how to navigate it. Okay, so first off, who is this for? This is for anyone who is looking to purchase their first home, or they have already purchased a home and they're looking to go through another transaction, but they maybe ran into some hiccups and want to know how to do it more efficiently the second time around. So this is really from start to finish what the entire home buying process looks like, and that's actually how we have this laid out so that you can navigate it from start to finish. So how do we set up our credit, our debt to income to get maximum pre-approval all the way to closing day? What do we need to bring on that day to get the keys in our hands? And so with that, I have it broken down into at the very start. So the first section of this is how to set up for success, meaning what things do we need to do before we start the home search process to make sure that we get pre-approval, that we have our debt to income correct, and that our credit score is right. The reason these are so important is because we want to know, one, what are we pre-approved for? So we need to know our range for the homes that we can purchase, but also what do you want to pay on a monthly basis? What are all the things that go into a monthly fee, and what's that out-of-pocket final number that you feel comfortable with working into your budget? And then we kind of blend them into the optimal number, and from there we reverse engineer it to what the home costs are from there. And that way we're not looking at houses that are going to stretch the budget a little too far, and we're not looking too low to where we can probably get another bedroom or another bath, or we could get a little better neighborhood for some better resale value based on whatever you're looking for. And so the pre-approval is extremely important, and that's the first step. Then we move into the property search. So the home buying, what does that look like? What are the different property types? How many bed baths are we looking for? What are the neighborhoods? Is it resale value that matters to you? Is it the school districts that matter to you? Everything that you're looking for, what goes into the property search. Once we kind of narrow it down to a general area that you're looking for, maybe a specific subdivision, or even if it's just a square footage backyard with a garage, we'll set up showing. So what does that process look like? How do we go view these properties, and what happens when we find a property that you actually do like, which takes us into the next step. So that's the offer. So the next section is going to be the offer and everything that goes into it. What are loan programs? How do we optimize for the best rates? How do we calculate our mortgage? Who do we turn to calculate our mortgage? What are the insurances and taxes? What are all the things that go into the final payment? That way you know exactly what's coming out of pocket. What is an EMD? So earnest money deposit. When do you pay that? Why do you pay that? What's the significance of that payment? Then we go into home inspections. How do we schedule those? Why are those important to you as the buyer? How do they keep you safe and allow you a chance to release from the contract, so that way you don't have to move forward with the property if it's something you don't feel comfortable with repairing, or that the seller won't agree to repairing. So those are major parts in the transaction that allow us as the buyers to release from contract if we find something that we didn't see in the showing. Also, PICRAs. What does that stand for? What does that mean, and why is that significant in the transaction? And then finally up to closing. So what do we need to bring on that closing day? So we've heard of closing costs and we've heard of down payments. And so there's actually two separate parts. And this is something that I wish somebody made crystal clear to me, because anytime that you hear about buying a home, you generally hear about the down payment. So the different loan programs, either FHA, or like a VA loan, or a conventional loan, so 5% down. But that's the down payment to secure the loan, the funding. There's also closing costs, and that's generally 3 to 4% of the transaction. So if it's a $200,000 house, we can expect $6,000 to $8,000 for the recording fees, making sure that the title is clear when you get that property. You want to make sure that there's no liens on the property, and all of the things that go in to make sure that when you get the keys in your hand, they're clean. And what are those costs that on that day you need to be prepared to pay out of pocket? And then finally we go into, I have a little bonus section at the bottom of how to win offers. And the first part, just how do we really optimize our pre-approval? So closing, the credit score, debt to income ratio, how to make sure that you are set before we put you into contact with the lender. How do we, and then the next section is down payment, closing costs explained. So what are the separations, and again, what do we need to have, be mentally prepared for financially and mentally on closing day to have out of pocket. Also, how can we leverage some of the things in this market? We can ask for closing cost assistance. So on separate from the down payment, the closing costs, we can get 1%, 2%, 3% maybe covered by the seller, and that way you don't have to pay those costs out of pocket. What are different ways that we can kind of improve the marketability of our offer? Finally, speed to offer. In this market right now, good homes are usually gone within 7 days, and unless they come back on market from any plethora of reasons, either that current buyer that couldn't secure financing, or they came across something on the home inspection. But all of these things are relevant into understanding those specifics on that property, and how can speed to the offer really put us in a much better position on winning that property. And then finally, working with the realtor. And so my goal with this course is to make sure that you know everything, or you're much more prepared into going into a buying transaction to where you could potentially do it yourself. But working with the realtor, why are they there? At Better Together Realty, like, this is our process, and you'll see at each step of the way where it can become much more efficient if you use a realtor, because that is what they're there for, to orchestrate this entire transaction from pre-approval to closing and beyond. So without further ado, we're going to move into the next section, credit status and savings. But do know that the way this is set up is that at each one of these sections, each transaction is unique. But I want you to know that I'm adding all the fundamentals that are in the majority of transactions. Each one is unique, and so if you have specific questions, if you're looking for, or if you reach a lesson that you want to dive deeper, at the bottom of every video, I've got a link that you can secure a 15-minute or reserve a 15-minute call with me, where we can deep dive into a specific lesson, or specific questions you have, maybe search for a neighborhood, anything that you have specifically on a property. Go ahead and reserve a call, and I'm more than happy to hop on a call. Or if this is a second transaction for you, then we can go over anything that you ran into in the next transaction, or looking to buy your next home. So I have put that there because, again, I want to add all the fundamentals that are going to hit the majority of transactions, but anything specific, I want to leave that link there for you to reserve. So anyway, moving on to the credit, and I look